What would you do if the world was watching you in real time, and everything you thought was private suddenly exploded in public? Imagine millions of eyes glued to a screen, every glance, every pause, every word dissected. That was the reality when Meghan Markle and her ex-husband, Trevor Engelson, went live, and what was supposed to be a conversation quickly turned into chaos. Within minutes, social media was ablaze. Journalists were scrambling, and whispers of scandal spread faster than wildfire. Something happened during that live stream, something no one expected, and by the time it ended, the world couldn't stop talking about it. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. This isn't just a story about a public argument. It's about secrets, long-buried tensions, unspoken histories finally surfacing. For years, Trevor stayed silent about aspects of his life with Meghan, a silence that now, suddenly, seemed impossible to maintain. Why did he choose this moment, in front of the world, to speak? And why did the situation spiral so quickly, leaving so many questions and only a few answers? The live stream began innocently enough. Friends had suggested they reconnect, or at least clear the air in front of their audience. Fans were intrigued, hoping for insight into Meghan's Hollywood life, the early days of her career, and perhaps a few stories about her time before royalty. The energy was tense from the start, though, and the viewers could sense it immediately. Small smirks, hesitant pauses, subtle eye rolls. Nothing overt, but enough to suggest that beneath the surface, something was brewing. Then it happened. Something subtle, almost imperceptible at first, changed the tone of the conversation. A glance, a gesture, a tone in Meghan's voice, and suddenly, the audience felt it too. What was supposed to be a conversation about the past became an exchange filled with emotion, tension, and accusation. Trevor, who had spent years avoiding public confrontation, suddenly hinted at knowledge he had never revealed. His words carried weight, the kind that made people lean forward in their seats, glued to every syllable. "I've kept quiet for a decade," he said, voice tight. "But you've left me no choice." The viewers didn't know what choice meant yet, but social media did. Within minutes, hashtags began trending. Rumors swirled. Some claimed they saw a threat, though no one actually saw anything violent. Others speculated about the past, trying to connect dots that may or may not exist. Reporters scrambled, trying to verify what had happened. Was Meghan really facing legal consequences? Had Trevor crossed some line in revealing private information? Every news outlet wanted to be first. Every influencer wanted to give their take, and millions of eyes remained fixed on the unfolding drama. What made this moment explosive wasn't just the conversation itself. It was the implications behind it. Trevor had kept certain information hidden for years. Information he now suggested could change the public's perception of Meghan forever. There was a history here, one that many assumed they knew, but few truly understood. And by hinting at the potential to expose it, Trevor ignited a chain reaction of speculation, fear, and fascination. As the conversation continued, the tension escalated. Meghan's responses became sharper, her words deliberate, her expressions careful yet revealing. Every time she paused, viewers speculated about her next move. What was she thinking? Was she defending herself? Was she negotiating, subtly, in real time? And Trevor, calm but insistent, pushed boundaries, reminding her of moments from the past that she may have hoped were long forgotten. It was an intricate dance, one that millions of people were watching unfold, and every move carried significance. Audience reactions were instantaneous and intense. Comments flooded in, some supportive, some critical, all frantic. Emojis and messages scrolled at a pace too fast to read fully. The live stream, which started as a conversation, had become a spectacle. A public reckoning in real time. The world was witnessing a private argument played out on the biggest stage imaginable, and no one knew what would happen next. Then came the moment that changed everything. Something occurred, a gesture, a motion, an expression, that viewers interpreted in the worst possible way. Panic set in. Clips were shared out of context, headlines were written in haste, and suddenly, the phrase "Meghan Markle arrested" began circulating online. No one could confirm it. The police had not issued a statement. Yet the rumor was enough to cause a frenzy. Social media feeds exploded. News alerts buzzed. And for Meghan, The confrontation that was already tense now became a media wildfire. Trevor's role in this moment cannot be overstated. He had spent years remaining quiet, but the livestream changed everything. His hints, his choice to speak publicly, and the stories he suggested he had kept secret suddenly gave the world a new lens through which to view Meghan's past. Was this carefully calculated or a spontaneous decision? And what were the secrets that he now seemed poised to reveal? His threats were cryptic but chilling. If I don't say it now, someone else will. The world deserves to know. What made the situation more complicated was how public perception shifted within minutes. Some viewers sided with Meghan, defending her and questioning the validity of Trevor's statements. Others believed the rumors and began dissecting every clip, every word, trying to confirm the allegations. Analysts, journalists, and social media commentators debated what had actually happened, further fueling the drama. The livestream, originally meant to clarify, had instead ignited a firestorm. The emotional stakes were enormous. For Meghan, this was not just about reputation. It was about identity. Every reaction, every headline, every whispered rumor challenged the person she had become. For Trevor, it was about finally telling a story he had held on to for years, about asserting control in a situation that had long been beyond his influence. And for the millions watching, it was about witnessing a collision of past and present, fame and secrecy, truth and interpretation. What truly captivated the audience was not the argument itself, but the contradictions and tensions revealed in real time. Meghan, the former actress and now royal figure, displayed confidence and vulnerability simultaneously. Trevor, the ex-husband who had mostly remained silent, revealed both restraint and intensity. Viewers were caught in the space between admiration, shock, and disbelief. Every detail, the tone, the choice of words, the pauses, became a piece of a puzzle that everyone was eager to solve. By the time the livestream ended, the chaos was only beginning. Clips circulated on every platform. Memes were created within minutes. Commentary videos began to appear, analyzing every gesture and phrase. And Trevor's cryptic final statement lingered in the public consciousness, a promise that he might reveal more, a suggestion that the world had only seen the tip of the iceberg. So why does this matter right now? Because the incident isn't just a scandal. It's a moment that exposes the fragility of public perception, the dangers of assumptions, and the complexity of personal histories that intersect with fame. It's a reminder that even a single live broadcast, viewed by millions, can have consequences far beyond what anyone imagined. And the hints Trevor dropped, the secrets, the threats, the potential revelations, mean that this story is far from over. Millions are asking the same question. What will happen next? Will Trevor actually reveal what he claims to have? Will Meghan respond publicly? And how will the world react to whatever comes out next? These are not questions with simple answers. Every potential outcome carries emotional, social, and reputational weight. And one thing is clear. This live stream has changed the conversation forever. Because what Trevor hinted at next was something even Meghan's closest friends never expected. The world was on the edge of a revelation, and no one could predict how it would unfold. And that's why you need to stay tuned, because what came next would set the stage for an explosive sequence of events, and the story was only just beginning. It was a day like any other. At least, that's what everyone thought. Meghan Markle had logged onto her social media account with a mix of nerves and determination. Trevor Engelson, her ex-husband, was already waiting on the other side of the video call. What was meant to be a casual, behind-the-scenes conversation, a chance to reminisce, clear the air, and perhaps offer fans insight into their shared history, quickly became something no one could have predicted. From the very first second of the livestream, tension filled the digital air. Meghan appeared calm, composed, smiling politely at the camera. Trevor, on the other hand, exuded a quiet intensity, a look that made viewers lean closer to their screens. Something about the way he held himself, the slight tightening of his jaw, the deliberate pauses before he spoke, immediately signaled that this conversation was about to go far beyond casual storytelling. "Thanks for joining me today," Meghan began, her voice steady but layered with unspoken emotion. The chat exploded instantly. Thousands of fans typed in hearts, greetings, and excited emojis. They were here for the stories, for a glimpse behind the carefully curated public image. They didn't know they were about to witness an event that would send shockwaves across social media. Trevor nodded politely, then leaned slightly forward. His eyes scanned the camera, the same way someone would scan a courtroom, searching for reactions before making a move. "It's good to be here," he said. But the words, though simple, carried an undercurrent of something heavier. A tension that everyone could feel, but no one could yet name. At first, the conversation seemed harmless. They talked about mutual friends, upcoming projects, the odd challenges of Hollywood life. The audience was enchanted, captivated by the seemingly casual banter between two people who once shared so much. But subtle signs began to emerge. A glance exchanged, a quick roll of the eyes, a pause longer than necessary. The viewers sensed it. The air had changed. The easy flow of conversation had transformed into something charged with history, with unfinished business, with secrets. Trevor was the first to push past the small talk. "You know, I've kept quiet about a lot of things," he said, voice calm but pointed. "For a decade, I said nothing. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I didn't want the world to see sides of us that were private." The chat immediately erupted. Viewers were alert. Something was coming. Something significant. Meghan's expression flickered for just a moment, a micro-expression that only trained eyes could catch. It was the smallest contraction of her lips, a quick blink, a subtle shift of her shoulders. But in that instant, the audience felt the weight of what Trevor was implying. This was no longer a simple conversation. This was the beginning of a reckoning. Then, the first sparks of tension ignited. Trevor's words became more pointed, referencing events from their past without giving full context. He hinted at moments he had witnessed, words he had heard, things he had decided to keep private, until now. "You've changed a lot since then," he said. "But some things never really leave you. I've held on to memories for years, hoping they'd stay buried." The audience leaned in. The chat moved at lightning speed. Questions flashed across the screen. What does he mean? Which memories? Is he about to reveal something shocking? Every viewer had a theory. Every theory added fuel to a growing fire. Meghan's response was carefully measured. She smiled politely, laughed softly at moments that seemed designed to diffuse tension, and occasionally steered the conversation back to safer territory. But every so often, her eyes betrayed a flicker of unease, a reminder that even the most composed public figure cannot fully control how private history plays out under the relentless gaze of millions. The argument began to build incrementally. Trevor dropped another line, simple in words but loaded in meaning. "You think the past is behind you, but the past has a way of catching up." There was no yelling, no screaming, just calm words that cut like a knife. And yet, viewers felt the atmosphere shift. Something unspoken hovered in the air, a sense that the discussion could explode at any moment. And then it did. In a matter of seconds, the conversation pivoted. A glance, a gesture, a sudden sharp tone from Meghan. Viewers interpreted it in the worst possible way. The chat erupted with panic and speculation. Rumors spread that something physical had occurred. Clips were shared, context was lost, and suddenly, the phrase "Meghan Markle arrested" began to trend across multiple platforms. No official statement had been made. No confirmation existed. But in the world of instant information, perception is everything. Trevor watched the chaos unfold silently, almost too deliberately. He had anticipated the public reaction, but perhaps not the speed or intensity of it. And yet, he seemed oddly calm. "I've said what I needed to say," he said quietly, voice carrying a weight that made every viewer pause. "The rest, well, you'll see soon enough." Viewers were riveted. Some defended Meghan, insisting that the rumors were baseless and that the live stream had been misinterpreted. Others were convinced that the implications were real, dissecting every second of video for proof. Analysts and journalists rushed to comment, each offering interpretations, theories, and speculative narratives. In less than 15 minutes, the digital world had transformed a private moment into a global spectacle. For Meghan, the stakes were far higher than the trending hashtags or viral clips. This live stream wasn't just about reputation. It was about identity, control, and the remnants of a life she had tried to move beyond. Every reaction, every misinterpretation, Every viral clip chipped away at the narrative she had spent years carefully shaping. And for Trevor, this moment was about more than confrontation. It was about finally asserting a voice he had kept silent for far too long. As the live stream continued, the tension reached a peak. Trevor's hints at hidden truths grew bolder. Meghan's attempts to steer the conversation towards safer territory became more evident. And the audience? They were caught in a whirlwind of fascination, speculation, and emotional investment. Questions raced through everyone's minds. What exactly does Trevor know? What will he reveal next? How will Meghan respond? The chat exploded once more. Clips of the confrontation were shared across platforms, stripped of nuance and context. Hashtags trended, news outlets published breaking stories, and social media influencers dissected the incident frame by frame. The digital world had transformed a private argument into a public event, a moment that blurred the line between personal history and public spectacle. And yet, despite all the chaos, one thing remained clear: the story was far from over. Trevor's cryptic statements suggested that what had just unfolded was only the beginning. The hints of secrets, the suggestions of revelations, and the threat of exposure lingered like a shadow over the live stream. Millions of people were waiting, watching, anticipating. And Meghan? She was fully aware that this confrontation, live and unfiltered, had set the stage for consequences she could not yet control. Because what came next, Trevor's final words, his promise of disclosure, the subtle intensity in his gaze, hinted at a revelation that would leave the world stunned. A revelation that no one had expected, and one that would change the narrative entirely. The live stream had already captured attention. Now it had captured anticipation, suspense, and a global curiosity that would not be satisfied until the truth was revealed. And so, the first chapter of this drama ended not with resolution, but with suspense. The live stream had set the tone, established the tension, and ignited the first sparks of a story that would continue to unfold in ways no one could predict. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. It started with a single moment, a seemingly small, almost imperceptible shift in tone, timing, and tension. Those watching the live stream might not have noticed it at first, but once it happened, everything changed. The conversation that had been charged, yes, but still contained, suddenly tipped into chaos. What was meant to be a dialogue, an opportunity to share stories, became something no one could control. Meghan had been speaking carefully, her words measured and deliberate. She smiled, laughed lightly, and interjected with questions designed to keep the discussion on neutral ground. Trevor listened, nodding at times, but there was a tension in his jaw, a weight behind his eyes. The audience sensed it. They had already felt the undercurrent of history between the two, but this was different. There was something in the air that made viewers lean closer to their screens, hearts racing, unable to look away. It was a gesture, subtle but loaded, that triggered the first ripple of panic. Meghan leaned forward, her expression sharpening for a split second, and Trevor responded in kind. To anyone watching casually, it might have looked like a disagreement, nothing more. But to millions of viewers, this micro-moment became a signal, a hint of something far more serious than either party intended. Social media caught fire instantly. Clips were shared, retweeted, and edited in ways that made the event seem far more extreme than it truly was. Within minutes, the first headlines appeared: Meghan Markle in controversial livestream incident. Some even included the word arrest, though no official confirmation existed. Trevor's words had started calmly, but now they carried a sharper edge. "I've held so much back," he said, voice low but resolute. "I've stayed quiet, kept memories private, but silence doesn't protect you forever. Some things need to be said. The truth always finds its way out." The audience felt the weight behind the statement. Every pause between words amplified tension. Every glance exchanged seemed loaded with meaning. Fans began speculating frantically. What was he talking about? Which truths? How far was this going to go? Meghan's response was quick, but not entirely defensive. She maintained a measured tone, attempting to clarify and control the narrative in real time. "Trevor, we've both moved on," she said, voice calm yet firm. "But some things are private for a reason." Her words carried authority, but the undercurrent of tension was undeniable. For anyone watching, the stakes felt enormous. This wasn't just a casual argument. It was the collision of past and present, of public persona and private history. Then came the moment that spiraled everything. A small gesture, almost imperceptible, a hand movement, a sudden tilt of the head, a shift in expression, was interpreted by viewers as a threat. Some thought it was aggression, others believed it indicated panic, and almost immediately, clips began circulating across social media with alarming captions. Within minutes, what had been a contained exchange turned into a viral phenomenon. Rumors of an arrest surfaced, and the conversation was suddenly everywhere. News outlets scrambled to verify the story, journalists rushed to comment, and influencers dissected every second. Trevor remained calm throughout, observing both Meghan's reactions and the chaos unfolding online. His composure contrasted sharply with the uproar, making his presence even more intense to those watching. "I've said what I needed to say," he added quietly, voice steady but weighty. "Now it's up to everyone else to interpret it." Those words, innocent on the surface, carried a threat of exposure that kept the audience on edge. The chat exploded. Messages poured in from fans, critics, and casual viewers alike. Some were supportive, insisting that Meghan's intentions had been misinterpreted. Others were convinced something serious had occurred. Theories proliferated, some plausible, some wildly speculative. Emojis and comments scrolled faster than any human could read, a chaotic reflection of the storm online. Every viewer felt caught between fascination and disbelief. Meanwhile, the emotional tension between Meghan and Trevor reached a new level. Trevor's references to the past became more pointed, hinting at events and decisions that only they fully understood. Meghan countered with careful language, attempting to redirect the conversation and maintain composure under an unprecedented level of scrutiny. The emotional stakes were immense. It was not just a debate about old memories. It was about identity, reputation, and the control of narrative. Social media acted as both amplifier and distortion lens. Within moments, the live stream was no longer a private exchange or even a contained broadcast. It had become a worldwide spectacle. Clips were edited, timestamps removed, context lost. The narrative transformed in real time, and millions consumed the event as if it were breaking news, with each new clip adding a layer of drama. Trevor's carefully worded hints became fodder for speculation, and the public's hunger for secrets and revelations only intensified. As the tension mounted, Meghan's composure remained remarkable, yet the subtle signs of strain could not be hidden entirely. A fleeting flash of frustration crossed her face. A pause lingered longer than usual. Her eyes flickered to the corner of the screen. The audience noticed. Every micro-expression became part of the unfolding story. Every pause was dissected, analyzed, and discussed across the globe. Trevor, meanwhile, maintained his calculated calm. His intentions were ambiguous. Was he preparing to reveal more? Was he simply asserting control in a moment of high tension? The ambiguity added fuel to the fire. The live stream had become a chess match of emotion and interpretation, and every viewer was a spectator to a game they could not fully understand. The moment that truly tipped the situation occurred when Trevor made a statement that would echo beyond the live stream. "I've kept quiet all these years," he said, voice low but unwavering. "But some truths are too important to remain hidden. People deserve to know." The statement, simple yet powerful, was enough to ignite further speculation. The chat exploded anew. Clips spread like wildfire. Rumors accelerated, and the phrase "Meghan Markle arrested" began circulating as though fact, even though no official source had confirmed it. In the aftermath, analysts, reporters, and influencers scrambled to contextualize the live stream. Everyone wanted a piece of the story, everyone wanted to interpret it first, and everyone had a theory. Social media became a storm of commentary, speculation, and conflicting narratives. The world had witnessed a seemingly small moment escalate into a global spectacle, and there was no turning back. The live stream had done more than capture an argument. It had exposed the tension, history, and contradictions of two people whose past had always been under public scrutiny. It had shown the fragility of perception, the volatility of digital media, and the immense power of interpretation. And most importantly, It had set the stage for a series of revelations that no one could have anticipated. Because what happened next, the fallout, the threats, the hints of secrets yet to be revealed, would push both Meghan and Trevor into a narrative neither could fully control. The live stream had spiraled into something much larger than either of them imagined, and the world was watching, waiting, and wondering. And just when it seemed the storm had reached its peak, Trevor dropped a hint that changed everything. A promise of revelations that would shock the public and shift the narrative forever. The moment everything spiraled wasn't just about the live stream itself. It was about what came after, what was being hinted at, and how the world would react to the anticipation of the truth. Millions were on edge, and one thing was certain: no one would be able to look away. For a decade, Trevor Engelson lived in the shadows of Meghan Markle's life. He was the man she had married long before the cameras, headlines, and royal titles. He was the witness to a chapter that few remembered, fewer understood, and almost no one talked about publicly. And yet, despite the history, Trevor had remained remarkably silent until now. What made him speak after all this time? That was the question everyone was asking. Friends speculated, media pundits analyzed, and fans debated, but the truth was far more complex than any headline suggested. Trevor's silence had not been passive. It was deliberate, carefully maintained, a choice made to protect both himself and Meghan from unnecessary scrutiny. He had witnessed moments, heard things, and observed sides of Meghan few would ever know. Details that could have been explosive if ever revealed. And yet, he waited. 10 years of quiet, while the world assumed he had nothing to say. The live stream changed everything. For the first time, Trevor hinted at the depths of what he knew. "I've held a lot back," he said calmly, almost conversationally, yet the weight behind the words was unmistakable. "Not because I didn't want to speak, not because I was afraid, but because some things are better left in the past until they aren't." That pause was heavy. The audience sensed it. Everyone watching leaned closer, waiting for him to continue, knowing something significant was about to be revealed. Trevor's history with Meghan was complicated. Their marriage had been a mix of romance, ambition, and Hollywood glamour, intertwined with personal conflicts and professional challenges. They had shared laughter, plans, and dreams, but also disagreements, disappointments, and moments of tension that would later become key pieces of the story unfolding online. Few had insight into those years, and fewer still had heard Trevor's side. For 10 years, he had stayed quiet, avoiding the temptation to capitalize on fame, scandal, or curiosity. And now, after so much time, he seemed ready to speak, but only on his own terms. Even during the live stream, Trevor's demeanor reflected years of restraint. He spoke deliberately, measured, and cautiously, never letting emotion dictate his words. Yet the very fact that he had chosen to participate signaled a shift. Something had changed, something in Meghan's behavior, something in the public conversation, or perhaps something personal, that made him decide this was the moment. "I've kept quiet for a reason," he said. "But the longer you wait, the more the past has a way of catching up." That statement alone sent viewers into a frenzy. What did he mean by catching up? What secrets had he been holding? Why now, after 10 years, had he chosen to break his silence? These questions fueled speculation across social media. Analysts dissected his words, fans debated their meaning, and the media jumped on every phrase. The tension wasn't just in the live stream. It was in the digital aftershock that followed. Trevor's silence over the past decade had been a careful strategy. He had learned that the public rarely understands the complexities of private relationships, especially when fame is involved. Misinterpretation could lead to scandal, and in Meghan's case, the stakes were monumental. By holding back, Trevor had avoided fueling speculation or giving life to rumors that could have damaged reputations, careers, and personal relationships. But the live stream, and the misinterpreted moments within it, forced a reckoning. The very act of speaking, even vaguely, created a wave of anticipation that no one could ignore. The audience also began to notice subtle contradictions in Trevor's demeanor. At times, he appeared composed, almost detached, as if observing the situation from a distance. At other moments, a flicker of emotion crossed his face, a flash of frustration, nostalgia, or even regret. These micro-expressions were enough to convince viewers that there was more beneath the surface, more than either participant was willing to say outright. The tension between restraint and revelation created an almost unbearable suspense, keeping millions glued to their screens. Trevor had also carefully chosen his words to maintain ambiguity while still hinting at depth. He referenced moments from the past without fully explaining them, teasing the audience with glimpses of private history. "Some things I never spoke about because they weren't mine to share," he said, voice low but steady. "But there are others, things only I can tell. And it's time." That statement left viewers on edge. What were these things? Were they personal, professional, controversial? The possibilities were endless, and the speculation only made the situation more gripping. At the same time, Trevor's decision to speak publicly highlighted a key theme: control. For years, he had been in the position of observer, silently cataloging memories and experiences. Now, he was reclaiming a sense of agency, asserting his narrative in a way that the world could see. The live stream gave him a platform, and he used it to deliver statements that were simultaneously restrained and provocative, controlled yet emotionally charged. It was a delicate balance, and the audience recognized it immediately. Even as Trevor spoke, viewers could feel the gravity of his restraint. There was a sense that he could have said far more, revealed far more, but chose not to. At least for now. That restraint amplified the suspense, making every word he did utter feel monumental. Each statement was a building block in a story that the public could only piece together in fragments, leaving them desperate to know more. The emotional stakes for Meghan were equally high. She had to navigate a delicate line between defending herself and maintaining composure, while also managing the growing storm outside the livestream. Every reaction, every micro-expression, every carefully crafted sentence mattered. The tension between the two exes wasn't just personal. It had spilled into the public sphere, affecting perception, reputation, and the anticipation of what might be revealed next. As the live stream continued, Trevor's final remarks hinted at deeper revelations. "The world thinks they know me," he said, I steady. "The world thinks they know her. But the reality is far more complicated. And sometimes, the truth can't be ignored forever." Those words resonated, leaving a lingering sense of foreboding. The livestream had not just been a conversation. It had become a prelude to a series of events that could change public perception, disrupt careers, and redefine narratives. For the audience, Trevor Engelson was no longer just an ex-husband. He was a key figure in a drama that combined history, secrecy, and the suspense of revelation. His decade-long silence, followed by this carefully timed emergence, created an almost cinematic tension. Millions were now invested in not just what he might say, but when and how it would unfold. By the end of the live stream, the audience was left with more questions than answers. Trevor had teased secrets, hinted at revelations, and reminded viewers of the fragility of perception. Meghan had maintained composure, but the undercurrent of tension was unmistakable. And outside the digital world, social media, news outlets, and commentators were already preparing for the next chapter. Because the story was far from over. Trevor Engelson, the man who had stayed quiet for 10 years, had just opened the door. And what lay beyond it? The revelations, the confrontations, the exposure of long-hidden truths was something the world had never seen coming. The past had found a way to catch up. And the moment it did, everything spiraled toward a new, unpredictable reality. But what Trevor hinted at next would push the drama far beyond the live stream, and no one could have anticipated what was about to unfold. The tension between Meghan Markle's past and present had always been palpable, but the live stream brought it into sharp, unavoidable focus. For years, the world had known her as the poised, polished figure married into royalty. The Duchess of Sussex, a woman navigating palaces, protocols, and press scrutiny. Yet, there was another side, one forged in the studios, sets, and behind-the-scenes drama of Hollywood, that few had seen in such raw proximity. And in that live stream, those two worlds collided in ways that were electrifying, unpredictable, and, for many, shocking. The audience had already seen glimpses of this duality in past interviews and public appearances, but nothing had juxtaposed the Hollywood Meghan against the royal Meghan so dramatically. Hollywood Meghan was candid, witty, and unapologetically expressive. She could navigate the camera, handle sharp dialogue, and engage with controversy like a master. Royal Meghan, on the other hand, was measured, diplomatic, and conscious of every nuance, aware of the stakes of her public image. In the live stream, both versions of Meghan existed simultaneously, at times harmoniously, at other moments in sharp conflict. From the first few minutes, viewers noticed the tension. Hollywood Meghan occasionally slipped in an expression, a gesture, or a tone reminiscent of the actress she had once been, direct, fiery, even playful. Royal Meghan countered with composure, occasionally softening the moment with diplomacy, measured speech, or a subtle smile meant to reassure the audience. The oscillation between candidness and control created a rhythm that held viewers spellbound. Every micro-expression became a clue, every inflection a signal. It was the kind of tension that could be felt through a screen, electrifying millions of people watching from across the world. Trevor Engelson was a master of subtle provocation in this dynamic. His calm demeanor acted as a counterbalance, yet he had an uncanny way of drawing out both sides of Meghan. One minute, he would reference a shared memory from Hollywood days, a film set, a late-night audition, or a private joke, and suddenly, the audience saw the candid, unfiltered side of Meghan. The next moment, he would pivot, referencing royal protocol or public expectations, triggering the measured, polished persona the world had come to expect. This push and pull created a tension that was cinematic in scale. The contrast was evident in how Meghan responded. During moments when Trevor invoked Hollywood history, her expressions flickered with nostalgia, humor, and, occasionally, frustration. She laughed in ways that were spontaneous and unrehearsed, her eyes sparkling with memories of a past life filled with ambition and performance. Yet when the conversation touched on royal scrutiny, social expectations, or public perception, her posture changed subtly, her tone became measured, and her words carefully chosen. This duality fascinated viewers. For millions, it was the first time they could see her navigating the collision of two identities in real time. The audience's reactions were instantaneous. Comments flooded in, some praising her candor, others noting her composure, and countless others analyzing the subtle shifts between Hollywood and Royal Meghan. The live stream became a real-time study in persona, image, and identity, sparking debates across social media, commentary panels, and fan forums. Questions proliferated. Which Meghan was the real Meghan? Could these two versions coexist, or were they destined to conflict? And what did this reveal about her interactions with Trevor, someone who had known both versions intimately? It was precisely this collision that amplified the tension during the live stream's most pivotal moments. When Trevor hinted at secrets from Hollywood days, stories never told, situations that had been carefully hidden, Hollywood Meghan instinctively responded, her reactions unfiltered, sharp, sometimes defensive. Conversely, when the conversation shifted toward royal scrutiny or the management of public perception, Royal Meghan's composure returned, strategic and careful, her words deliberate. This contrast created not just suspense, but an emotional resonance that kept viewers glued to the screen, their curiosity intensifying with every exchange. This duality also highlighted the stakes involved. Hollywood Meghan had navigated fame, ambition, and scrutiny long before royalty, learning how to assert herself in environments where criticism and competition were constant. Royal Meghan had entered a world of tradition, diplomacy, and rigid expectation, where missteps were magnified and private lives were relentlessly examined. The live stream exposed the friction between these worlds. A woman trained to command attention and navigate controversy now forced to reconcile her past with the demands of public duty. Viewers began to notice subtle cues that spoke volumes. The way Meghan's hands moved during heated moments, the slight narrowing of her eyes, or the pauses before her responses. Each gesture was amplified by the tension of dual identities. Trevor, ever the observer, seemed to understand exactly when to provoke and when to allow space, testing the boundaries of both personas. The result was a delicate dance, mesmerizing in its unpredictability. The audience wasn't just watching an argument. They were witnessing a negotiation of self, identity, and history. Hollywood Meghan demanded authenticity and directness. royal Meghan demanded control, precision, and awareness of consequence. The collision was uncomfortable yet compelling, and it forced viewers to confront a deeper question. How do public figures reconcile past selves with current expectations, especially when the past holds secrets that could reshape public perception? By the end of the live stream, it became clear that the Hollywood royal dichotomy wasn't just a curiosity. It was central to the unfolding drama. The audience was left with the sense that Meghan's responses had layers, each one revealing and concealing in equal measure. Trevor's choice to highlight this duality intensified the suspense, teasing both exposure and control. Fans, commentators, and the media speculated endlessly, which Meghan would ultimately define the narrative. And how would the world react to the convergence of these identities in the public eye? As the live stream drew to a close, viewers were left with a sense of unresolved tension. The collision of Hollywood and royal Meghan had been mesmerizing, revealing, and, in many ways, unsettling. It had demonstrated that even carefully cultivated public personas could not fully mask the complexity of a lived life, particularly when an ex-husband with knowledge and perspective chose to shine a spotlight on the spaces in between. And just when it seemed the live stream had concluded, Trevor's subtle hints suggested that the revelations weren't over. Hollywood stories, royal expectations, unspoken tensions, all hinted at secrets waiting to emerge, and the audience knew that the story would continue. The collision of past and present was far from resolved. But what Trevor was about to reveal next, the truths bridging Hollywood and royalty, would take the drama to an entirely new level, one that no viewer could have anticipated. The live stream had ended, but the ripple effect had only just begun. Millions of viewers replayed clips, dissected expressions, and speculated wildly about the tension between Meghan Markle and Trevor Engelson. Among all the chaos, one question dominated every conversation. What exactly were the secrets Trevor had hinted at? For 10 years, Trevor had kept silent. He had witnessed moments few others had, moments that had shaped Meghan's rise from Hollywood actress to global figure. And during the live stream, he teased that some of those memories were ready to surface. "The world deserves to know," he said, voice calm but carrying a weight that left the audience unsettled. It was enough to ignite curiosity and fear in equal measure. Trevor's secrecy had always been strategic. He had chosen to avoid exploiting Meghan's fame for personal gain, remaining silent about potentially explosive details from their shared past. That silence protected both of them, but it also created an aura of mystique. Now, after a decade, the decision to speak, even partially, created a shockwave. The implications were clear. The public was about to glimpse sides of Meghan's life that had never been shared. The secrets he hinted at were multi-layered. On one level, there were Hollywood anecdotes, behind-the-scenes events, intense career decisions, and personal struggles that had shaped her early life. Trevor alluded to stories from auditions, film sets, and late-night conversations, painting a picture of a woman ambitious, sometimes impulsive, and always navigating high-stakes environments. These moments were humanizing, but in the hands of the public, they could easily be twisted into scandal. Then there was the personal dimension. Trevor's statements hinted at experiences that were private, intimate, and formative, events and choices that few outsiders would ever know. They weren't just anecdotes. They were pieces of a life that, when exposed, could challenge public perceptions. Trevor's cryptic warnings made it clear that the balance between revelation and discretion would be delicate. Every hint, every tease, added to the suspense. Perhaps most striking were the implications regarding Meghan's transition into the royal sphere. Trevor suggested that certain aspects of her Hollywood past were incompatible with the expectations of royalty, hinting at moments that might have seemed minor at the time, but could now carry significant weight in the court of public opinion. He didn't specify, but the threat was unmistakable. The past, long thought buried, could resurface in ways that would complicate the carefully curated narrative of the Duchess of Sussex. Social media responded immediately. Clips of Trevor's hints were dissected, threads emerged speculating on what he might reveal, and journalists rushed to contextualize every word. Some predicted scandal, others suggested humanizing stories, and a few, more cautiously, warned that the truth might be far less sensational than the rumors implied. Yet the tension was undeniable. Millions of people were now invested not just in Meghan's past, but in what Trevor might reveal next. The live stream had not only reignited public interest in Meghan's early career, but also reframed the narrative of her life entirely. Viewers were forced to reconcile the Hollywood actress they knew from films and interviews with the royal figure appearing at high-profile events and diplomatic engagements. Trevor's threats to expose secrets blurred the lines between these two worlds, creating a suspenseful, emotionally charged narrative that the audience couldn't look away from. As analysts and commentators debated what Trevor's revelations could entail, another layer of tension emerged: the potential impact on Meghan herself. The live stream had already shown her balancing two personas, candid Hollywood Meghan and measured royal Meghan. But the looming threat of exposure added an emotional intensity that was palpable even from thousands of miles away. How would she respond if Trevor followed through? Would she counter publicly, or attempt to contain the narrative behind closed doors? Trevor's hints also sparked speculation about his motivations. Was he driven by a sense of justice, a desire to reclaim his voice after years of silence, or something more personal, perhaps resentment or the need to assert control? Each possibility added depth to the story, making it clear that this was not just about secrets, but about power, perception, and the delicate dance between private history and public scrutiny. Even without revealing the full details, Trevor's cryptic statements had already shifted the landscape. The world was talking, debating, and anticipating. Meghan's public image, carefully constructed over years of media appearances, interviews, and public events, now faced the possibility of being reframed by someone who had witnessed her unfiltered life firsthand. And the suspense didn't end there. In a final, chilling remark during the live stream, Trevor suggested that the secrets he held were not just historical curiosities. They had relevance now. They had the potential to reshape public perception, challenge narratives, and ignite controversies that no one could predict. Some truths, he said, have a way of coming out, whether you like it or not. And when they do, the world won't be ready. Viewers were left on edge. The live stream had been over, but the implications were just beginning to unfold. Social media buzzed with speculation, news outlets scrambled to report, and fans and critics alike debated the potential fallout. The story had become more than a conversation. It had become a ticking time bomb, a narrative poised to explode with revelation, drama, and consequence. Trevor Engelson, the ex-husband who had stayed quiet for a decade, had just set the stage for a story the world would not forget. And the secrets he threatened to reveal were about to test Meghan Markle's ability to navigate the collision of her past and present like never before. But what came next? The first of the secrets that would shock the public and redefine everything was about to surface. And when it did, it would change the narrative forever. The live stream had ended, but the digital storm it unleashed was far from over. Within minutes, social media was ablaze with speculation. Headlines flew across platforms. Meghan Markle arrested? Ex-husband reveals dark secrets. Did the law step in? Livestream chaos. What really happened between Meghan and Trevor? It was a frenzy, fueled less by verified facts than by the rapid spread of clips, out-of-context quotes, and the public's insatiable appetite for scandal. From the very first moment the rumors began circulating, confusion reigned. Was Meghan truly arrested? Or had a misinterpreted gesture, a tense look, or a carefully cropped clip sparked an internet wildfire? In the world of instant reporting, perception often mattered more than truth. The rumor became a headline, then a trending topic, and finally, a question that news outlets could not ignore. Millions clicked, watched, and shared, driven by curiosity, fear, and fascination. The incident that triggered the rumors had been subtle, almost trivial to an uninformed observer. During the live stream, a moment of tension between Meghan and Trevor was misinterpreted. A glance, a movement, a shift in tone, enough for viewers to assume the worst. The clip was isolated, stripped of context, and circulated as evidence of an alleged confrontation leading to law enforcement involvement. And in the era of viral media, assumptions often become facts before anyone can clarify. Newsrooms scrambled. Analysts debated the plausibility of an arrest without official confirmation. Social media influencers speculated on possible charges, motives, and fallout. The phrase "Meghan Markle arrested" trended globally, overshadowing any nuanced understanding of what had actually happened. People who had not watched the live stream relied solely on clips, snippets, and sensationalized headlines, creating a feedback loop that amplified panic and fascination simultaneously. Meanwhile, those closest to Meghan tried to manage the chaos behind the scenes. Advisors, friends, and legal representatives scrambled to clarify the situation, emphasizing that no formal charges had been made. Yet, even these attempts were insufficient to quiet the storm. In the digital age, rumors spread faster than clarifications. By the time any official statement was issued, millions had already formed their own narratives, some sympathetic, some accusatory, and others conspiratorial. Trevor's role in the misunderstanding was critical. While he had never suggested an arrest explicitly, the cryptic statements he made during the live stream, hints at confrontation, tension, and revelations, provided fertile ground for misinterpretation. The public's imagination, already primed for drama, filled in the blanks. Clips were edited, captions rewritten, and suddenly, the suggestion of an arrest became a story in itself. The nuance of Trevor's words was lost in the wildfire of speculation. The rumors took on a life of their own, amplified by influencers, meme creators, and tabloid writers. Every moment of Meghan's past and present was re-examined, and every inconsistency or unexplained behavior was interpreted as confirmation of wrongdoing. For viewers, the line between reality and perception blurred. Millions consumed the story as though it were breaking news, unaware that it was largely a product of misinterpretation and the viral nature of digital media. Legal analysts weighed in, explaining the mechanics of public arrest rumors. They discussed how isolated statements or gestures could be misread, how viral clips often misrepresent events, and how public figures are particularly vulnerable to such misunderstandings. Yet, even informed analysis struggled to slow the momentum. By the time the facts were clarified, the damage, in terms of public perception, had already been done. Meghan's response, carefully managed behind the scenes, reflected both urgency and restraint. She maintained public composure while her team worked to control the narrative. Public statements emphasized that there had been no legal action, no formal charges, and no official arrest. Yet the mere association with the rumor was enough to heighten suspense, drive online traffic, and intensify interest in Trevor's next revelation. For the audience, the ambiguity was addictive. Some refused to believe the clarification, insisting that the live stream must have hidden evidence. Others debated endlessly about what might have been left out, interpreting silence and carefully worded statements as confirmation of the worst. The rumor, even if false, had succeeded in keeping millions engaged, awaiting the next twist. This episode also highlighted a central tension in Meghan's public life, the collision of reality and perception. Even in the absence of legal action, the rumor of arrest shaped narratives, influenced opinions, and created pressure points for both Meghan and Trevor. The digital audience had become a player in the drama, influencing perception through every retweet, clip, and comment. And as the speculation intensified, it became clear that this was only the beginning. The rumor of an arrest was a distraction, yes, but it also functioned as a narrative device. A way to escalate tension, amplify curiosity, and set the stage for revelations that would be far more consequential than anyone suspected. It was no longer just about the livestream. It was about secrets, past actions, and the delicate balance of public image in a world where every gesture is scrutinized. As evening turned into night, the public's fascination only grew. Online searches, trending hashtags, and global chatter ensured that the story would dominate headlines for days. Every viewer was left with a single, unanswered question. If Meghan had not been arrested, what had Trevor meant? And what truths lay behind the tension they had witnessed on screen? Because the rumor of arrest, real or misunderstood, had done its job. It had captured attention, escalated suspense, and left the world waiting for the next revelation. And what came next? The secrets Trevor was poised to reveal promised to be even more explosive than the viral speculation. But what Trevor revealed immediately after the live stream would shock everyone, far beyond rumors or viral clips, and redefine everything the public thought they knew. The world had been primed for scandal, but what Trevor Engelson revealed next went beyond mere gossip. As the live stream continued, though only fragments had gone viral, Trevor leaned forward, eyes calm but focused, and dropped the first of his long-held secrets. It wasn't just a Hollywood story. It was a truth that exposed a side of Meghan Markle the public had never seen. Calculated, ambitious, and at times ruthless. For over a decade, Trevor had watched Meghan navigate the brutal Hollywood landscape. He had seen the auditions, the late-night script rewrites, the networking dinners, and the constant pressure to maintain both image and relevance. But there was one story, he hinted, that had always stayed hidden. A story about power, ambition, and moral compromise in an industry that chews people up and spits them out. Trevor began carefully, almost ceremoniously, laying the groundwork for what he would reveal. He didn't dive into sensational details immediately. Instead, he painted a picture of the environment, the competitiveness, the constant scrutiny, and the silent deals that determined careers. He reminded the audience that Hollywood isn't just a stage. It's a battlefield where every action carries consequences and every choice can define or destroy a life. Then he narrowed in, his tone shifting. There was a moment, he said quietly, a moment where ambition met opportunity and the consequences were unexpected. It's a story I've never told publicly, but it shows a side of Meghan few understand, the side that would do whatever it takes to get ahead. His words hung in the air like a challenge, daring the audience to guess what he meant. The suspense was electric. What Trevor described next was both shocking and humanizing. It wasn't about a criminal act, nor was it about something luridly sensational. Instead, it was about the choices people make when the pressure is immense, the stakes are high, and the world is watching. He recounted a Hollywood casting incident, one that had been pivotal for Meghan's career, where her ambition clashed with ethical expectations. Decisions were made, lines were blurred, and consequences were quietly managed, but the memory had stayed with him for years. The livestream audience was riveted. For many, this was the first time they saw Meghan not as a polished public figure, but as a human being navigating moral and professional challenges. Some viewers empathized, others judged. Yet the revelation did more than entertain. It reframed everything about her past. Hollywood Meghan was no longer just the actress on TV. She was a strategist, a survivor, someone capable of making difficult choices in a cutthroat world. Trevor didn't stop there. He hinted that this secret was only the beginning. This was one of many moments, he said, and it shows a side of her that the public hasn't seen. The side that thrives on control, influence, and careful maneuvering. The implication was clear. If he could reveal one story, there were likely more, each potentially more revealing, more damaging, or more illuminating than the last. The impact on the audience was immediate. Social media lit up as clips of Trevor's statements were shared, debated, and dissected. Fans and critics alike speculated endlessly about the nature of the secret. Headlines began to shift, with phrases like Meghan's hidden Hollywood ambition and ex-husband reveals career-changing incident, trending globally. Every snippet amplified curiosity, pulling millions deeper into the narrative. Meanwhile, Meghan's public image, meticulously curated over years, was now under pressure. Royal Meghan's poised, diplomatic persona collided with Hollywood Meghan's ambitious, sometimes ruthless side, and the contrast fascinated the public. Viewers were seeing a duality that was compelling, uncomfortable, and inescapable. Trevor's revelation had forced the world to confront a new version of Meghan, one that didn't fit neatly into the fairy tale narrative often presented in media. Analysts debated the implications. Some argued that the revelation humanized her, showing that success often requires tough choices. Others suggested it revealed a calculating side that contradicted the image of empathy and diplomacy cultivated in royal life. The ambiguity fueled speculation and discussion, keeping audiences engaged and hungry for the next revelation. Trevor, sensing the tension he had created, paused strategically. He allowed the audience to absorb the story, to speculate, to debate. Then he hinted at what was coming next. If you think this is surprising, Wait until you hear the second story, the one that involves trust, loyalty, and a choice that changed everything. That teaser ensured viewers would stay hooked, anticipating a revelation that promised to be even more explosive than the first. The livestream had achieved something rare. It transformed curiosity into anticipation, speculation into obsession, and rumor into narrative. Trevor's first revelation was not merely a story. It was a key that unlocked the potential for deeper truths, for secrets that had remained hidden for years, and for drama that would grip the world's attention. The first secret had been revealed, but the tension was far from over. Hollywood had always been a place of ambition and compromise, but the choices Meghan had made there were now being reframed through the lens of Trevor's revelations. The public was witnessing not just history, but context, a narrative shaped by decisions, opportunities, and consequences that few had ever imagined. And just as the audience began to process this, Trevor dropped the hint that would change everything. The next revelation would involve a confrontation, a betrayal, and a secret that touched not just Meghan's Hollywood past, but the very core of her present life. What came next would shock the world and redefine everything people thought they